Hey everybody, welcome back to RetroActive. I am one of your hosts, Will, along here with my partner, Joey.
Hello.
And we are here today to wish everybody a
Happy New Year.
No, a happy belated Alien Day.
Ooh, why?
It was April 27th, 427, like LV 427, the planet where they find the aliens.
I think it was the moon.
Was it the moon?
Yeah.
Okay, well, one of those two things. But yes, happy belated
They're really
Alien
stretching
Day.
it with these holidays, but sure, I'll take it.
Yeah, well, every day now is like an international something day, so we might as well base it off of beloved franchise
Sure, why not?
that we like. Just like Star Wars Day is coming up in the next week. So that'll be fun.
May the 4th be... Anyway, I'm not going to finish that. So along with Alien Day comes a little bit of news for the next Alien movie.
Ooh.
And
yes.
so the next one, as if people don't know already, it's going to be directed by Ridley Scott. Surprise!
Mm-hmm.
And
back.
They revealed the first image of the movie on Alien Day. And so far it's really nothing. It's just a picture of someone's patch on the suit of the spacesuit.
Yeah. I actually didn't even see that or see any news related to that at all.
I guess it kind of flew under the radar since it's not really something that really looks interesting, but it gives fans at the very least a tiny taste of what to expect, I guess.
Yeah, and actually what's to expect is a new movie coming in 2017. So that's next year. They revealed the title to be Alien Covenant. And I guess it's going to be a sequel to Prometheus from 2012. I think that movie came out.
But it's going to take place 10 years after the first movie.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Wait, well, 10 years after Prometheus, or no,
10 years after Alien.
No, it's still a prequel to Alien.
Are you sure?
I think. Yeah. So I think the way it is like it's a sequel to Prometheus, and then it acts as like a prequel to Aliens, or Alien. And I think that Ridley Scott, he wanted to do up like a whole trilogy of Alien prequel movies leading up to
Starting with Prometheus?
Yeah, starting with Prometheus. And actually, there was also talks that there's going to be an Alien 5. So there's going to be a sequel to Alien Resurrection.
That one's directed by, was it Neil Blomkamp?
Yeah, Neil Blomkamp. Yeah, the guy who directed District 9 and Elysium. He's becoming a very prolific sci-fi director.
Yeah, he's already carved out his own niche here.
Yeah, which is kind of funny.
I mean, he has Ridley Scott's blessing, which is better than anything else you can get from people. But
yeah,
let's hope that's good.
Yeah, hopefully so. I guess what it is though is that they've kind of pushed pause on that right now while they're still working on Alien Covenant, because I don't think they want to release like a sequel.
Yeah, they want to cannibalize their own movie franchise.
You're gonna release like one or two more prequels, and then release a sequel to like the movie that's like technically 4 movies later. So it's kind of a weird thing.
Whatever.
Yeah, but it's cool to see all the Alien stuff, coming out soon, because I mean, I'm sure you guys, hopefully listened to that episode about that we had about movie-based games and talking about how much we loved Alien Isolation and how good of a job they did at kind of replicating that world and replicating that universe, in a video game form, especially like all the technology and just the look and the feel of the original Alien movie. So we wanted to, kind of jump back into not only talking about aliens, but also just talking about scary movie monsters in general.
Ooh, Alien. Okay.
Is that what the aliens sound like?
I think that's the sound he makes, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, we want to take this week to talk about just movie monsters of the past, and ones that I guess we either grew up with or ones that we were always just terrified of.
Yeah.
Just in those movies that we either watched or didn't watch because of the fact that they were scary.
Yeah. There were quite a few, actually. There are a lot of movies I remember as a kid that kept me up at night. Like, I would be afraid to go to sleep because I'd be like, oh my God, I'm going to die in my sleep from something,
When you mention that, the first thing that comes to mind is Pyramid Head.
Oh, yeah.
But that wasn't even a movie or when you were a kid.
Right. We were in like high school when that game came out.
High school.
So that was from Silent Hill 2.
You can't even walk to the bathroom to go pee.
It's funny you mentioned Silent Hill. Like I just remember all those times where it's like I had everybody over at my place and we'd all sit there and play Silent Hill in the dark and try to get very far in the game, and we never got that far
No.
in the game because it was so scary, and nobody wanted to control it, so they'd make me play it.
Well, anyway, enough about Silent Hill. We do want to focus this on movies.
Yeah.
And we want to bring up the Xenomorph because I mean, as anyone who has seen the first Alien knows, that the Xenomorph is probably the most terrifying creature to ever be on a movie screen.
Oh my God, yes.
He's just, he's huge, he's black, he's acid-blooded,
Yeah, it's like
terrifying creature.
Yeah.
Stalking people in pitch blackness.
I mean, it's got to be one of the most iconic monster designs like in cinema history.
Yeah.
I mean, it was designed by H.R. Geiger, who's already like his art is like super creepy and super like dark and gothic, and everything. It's just so good, but it's also really scary just to look at, and to have that, to have his art also like brought to life in a way, in a movie. It's just like, oh my God, that's like really creepy. It's just like scary to me just to think about it.
But the question is it the scariest of all time?
I don't know. I mean,
yes.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Short answer, yes.
Going my opinion, I will say yes. The Xenomorph is probably the gold standard when it comes to horror movie villains or just monsters in general. Because if you think about it, like physically, just looking at it physically, it's insane. This thing is like ruthless. It can't be stopped pretty much. And even if you did find a way to stop it, like find a weakness, it would just destroy your ship pretty much because it leaks acid.
Yeah, for me, I think like what makes it even creepier, other than the fact that, like the obvious defining characteristics, like the acid blood, the claws and the teeth, the whip tail and everything that could physically like hurt you. It's just the fact that it's a humanoid too, There's always that idea about extraterrestrials that like they have like humanoid shapes, obviously because, it's like, we as humans think of things as being like humanoid.
Yeah, even though I'm sure aliens in the far reaches of the galaxies probably we haven't even thought of
any kind of other shapes or forms that they could take,
They're in shapes that we have not yet conceived yet.
And we always imagine them as being humanoid. But the funny thing about that is that's also what makes the alien so creepy, is that it is like a human. I mean, I think the original Xenomorph from the first, the 1979 Alien was like just a guy in a suit.
Yeah, it was just, I think they got someone
guy
who was like 6'10" or something like that.
Yeah, he was like hella tall.
Super skinny.
Yeah. And like that alone makes it really creepy. Just imagine like seeing something like seeing something humanoid looking like that with that huge bulbous head just walking around. Even if it's not actively trying to like hurt you or hunt you, it's just like,
it's like, hey, what's up?
Yeah, just like, oh God, get away from me.
Yeah, that's why I think makes a lot of the older movies like that really good, in that they don't do a lot to make the monster look really like nasty and like, how would you describe it? Just make it look inhuman pretty much.
Yeah.
Like the fact that it stays human-ish, it makes it puts it in that uncanny valley where...
Yeah, exactly.
Where you can't quite put your finger on it, but this thing is fucking terrifying.
Like if you were to see it from far away in like a dim light, you just see the outline of a human, and that alone, like that gangly, tall, like shape is really
it's like
creepy.
nightmare fuel.
And it's funny because when I look back at the last Alien movie, Alien Resurrection, which most people didn't like, but I actually thought it was pretty good. They go that extra distance and make it even creepier because they add in like there's an alien human hybrid that has like these weird human features. So it has like a face, it has like eyeballs, and it has like a skull. So you could see where its nose is supposed to be. You could see like the mandibles and the jaw and like everything. It doesn't have like the usual like alien mouth. It has a jaw.
That's really gross.
It has genitalia and everything too, which is like really gross. And at the end,
can we wait? Okay, continue.
It has like this terrifyingly human scream, which is just like, when I saw that movie in theaters when I was a kid, that alone scared the crap out of me. Just the fact that like it's screaming as it's dying and it sounds like a human. And that was so creepy.
Oh, humans.
See, and this is all just like just the look itself is like scary to people, and it's iconic because of the look, because of how scary it is.
Yeah, but I think in addition to it looking scary and basically being scary, it's kind of the entire setting of the movie, I think, kind of brings it together. The
Oh,
fact
yeah.
that if you had the alien and he was loose on the streets, no, it's not going to have the same impact as being in freaking space
Yeah.
where you have literally nowhere to go.
Exactly. It also, yeah, it taps into that fear, I think, a little bit of claustrophobia almost. It's claustrophobia inducing because you're trapped in this small, tight space with like a freaking vicious killing machine that moves through air vents and ducts and is stalking you the whole time. And it's
Yeah, basically doing anything to it is just going to like destroy your own spaceship.
exactly
Which, if you remember, that's exactly what they do to try and survive. They blow up the freaking spaceship.
exactly because you think about it, it's like what is our first instinct when it comes to a monster, like in any like movie? What's our
Just
first
run.
instinct? Well, other than run, like if you had to sit, if you're cornered, what do you want to do? You reach for a gun and you try to shoot it, right? But what's that going to do? You're either, if you miss, you're going to blow a hole in your hull. If you hit it, you're going to cause it to bleed acid all over the place, and it's going to
makes
melt
a hole
in the hole. So either way, you can't resort to like the typical, our typical way of dealing with like a problem like that and using ammunition or like even like, burning it or anything like that, or
Yeah.
stabbing
Well,
it.
I mean, they do try to burn it, and
Yeah.
it kind of works, but
Kind of, but it also is like, that just kind of like looks back at science fiction and be like, well, what, if you create fire on a ship like that, isn't that going to cause a shit ton of problems, But anyway, yeah. And it's also the fact too that it's like, you think about it, they don't have eyes, so they don't need
right.
they don't need light to see. So a lot of times, the characters are in like darkness, like all those ships and the
Yeah.
corridors and everything, they're dark. And in Aliens, the whole thing about they cut the power, man. How could they do that? They're animals. But
Yeah, like that, just the alien, the setting, basically this whole movie, it's not just the alien being a great movie monster, it's
Yeah.
alien being an amazing movie
Yeah.
like, in its entirety.
oh yeah,
Because like when I think of horror movies today, like a lot of what comes to mind is like this cheap jump scares
Yeah.
and like overreacting to these slasher bullcrap kind of movies. And yeah, they try to give you a lot of like just darkness and they try to make it really ominous, but it tends to come off just kind of cheesy and
oh yeah,
just stupid with like how the characters react to things. Man, Alien though, like when it came out, just think about all the other horror like monster movies that were out at the time. There was or not at the time, but just were
Like,
released within the last like 5
yeah,
or 10
like
years.
the late 70s, early 80s,
Yeah, like
and
Jaws.
stuff.
You got
Yeah, Jaws.
Exorcist.
Yeah, the Thing.
Halloween.
Yeah,
Like Dawn of the Dead too.
yeah. Those are all great movies. Those are all like classic.
Yeah,
horror
exactly.
movies.
But I think what sets Alien apart from them is like the setting.
Yeah.
Because they never. I don't think they made very many horror movies in space.
Oh
Before
no,
then.
not at all. I mean, I can't really think of many horror movies that are set like on a ship like that, especially too, like
Yeah,
in space.
Yeah, they did. I feel like they did horror in space before the world was ready for it. Almost.
Right. I mean, even thinking like in other media too, like especially I was thinking a lot about video games in particular, because since we talked about Alien Isolation and how good that was, if you think about it, there are not also a lot of horror games that are set in video games. And you would think that would actually be a simple premise too. Like, well, like let's just take something that's very similar to Aliens and let's take like some sort of like weird creature running around on a spaceship. But yet, I think the only games that I could recall that did a similar sort of thing was Dead Space.
Yeah.
And which was basically really inspired by Alien anyway. Like most of the story is inspired exactly by that. But yeah, it's like it's not a setting you see a lot of in horror movies.
Yeah.
And when you do, it's done very badly. Like what was it, Jason X?
I didn't watch that. I just
Oh,
I hear about it a lot.
it's really bad.
I know. Okay, first of all, why is he in space?
They excavate him or something, or they find him frozen at the bottom of the lake or something like that.
And then they shoot him off a cannon
Well,
into the moon or something?
No, it's like I guess the
Why?
ship has some sort of like I guess when people are really really badly hurt, there's technology on the ship that can rebuild your body by like at the cellular level or whatever.
Okay, I don't want to hear about
Anyway.
this. This is stupid.
Anyway, sci-fi and horror typically don't go together very well, and it
Yeah.
certainly has never been done as well as Alien has.
Yeah. I mean, what was it? 1979 was when it was made.
Yeah.
And it really did set the bar for a lot of sci-fi that came after it.
Right.
Like, even though it took a lot of hints from stuff before, like I think it took a lot of inspiration from 2001 and the original Solaris.
Oh, for sure, the Russian version of
yeah.
it. Yeah.
And but it went on to inspire like so many other ones, like one of your favorites, I know, Event Horizon.
Yep, Event Horizon. Yeah.
And then like one of my favorites, Sunshine, as well.
Yeah.
If you ever seen that.
Oh
like,
yeah, I love that movie.
Just,
yeah.
yeah.
The look and feel of those movies it's basically it owes a lot to Alien, especially. It's just like the way that the the cinematography looks in them, the way that the ship designs usually look in them. It's pretty spot on.
Before watching Alien, I had no idea that people were capable of making a movie look that beautiful before the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, holy crap, this is like one of the best movies I've ever like looked at.
Yeah.
Even after watching all these ones like Interstellar or whatever, Moon or this is probably the best.
Yeah. Oh.
But it's also the scariest. Don't forget about that.
That is,
like, but like I said, it's just everything when you combine it into a scary monster with a great setting, great cinematography, a well-made movie.
It creates like the perfect scary experience for the horror experience. That's something I feel like they did a lot better back in those days. I feel like filmmakers back then were focused on building a really great atmosphere around like their monsters too. They kind of, not only do you have to have like the monster design, but to make the monster scary, but just having that atmosphere around surrounding them to make it even scarier, to make you feel like the characters and that you're trapped in this situation, and that you're also running from it as well while you're watching this movie,
Yeah.
rather than just sitting there waiting for the silent parts, just really, really quiet. It gets really quiet. And then bam, that's the jump scare. And then you're just like, oh, ha, 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 ha.
Yeah, like by now people kind of expect those kinds of things.
Yeah. Which is bogus, I mean, that's, it's like, that's not even like giving your monster or creature or killer or whatever, that doesn't give them the credit. It's like, they're not what's scaring you. What's scaring you is the loud noise that you all of a sudden hear after like 2 seconds, after like 2 minutes of silence, It's like, that's not right.
Well, what's another monster then that you would say?
Well,
one thing, a scary man or woman,
scary man or woman. Well, for me, one of the bigger ones that I remember really being scared of as a kid, and I have no idea why my mom let me watch this like in elementary school, but it was The Thing from John Carpenter's The Thing in 1982. That movie was. So that movie was older than the both of us, and it's just it was really creepy to me. First off, it reminds me a lot of like what Alien did as well. It kind of has a very similar setting and a very similar
like isolated feel to it.
Yeah,
because they're in Antarctica.
Yeah,
right?
they're in a research station in Antarctica, and like the only way in or out is like a helicopter that comes. I guess it doesn't even come that often too. It's like they go months or something between like helicopter drops or whatever. And just as like the fact that like, so what happens if you haven't seen the movie already? It's basically about a parasitic alien life form, but what it's able to do is it's like it actually can assimilate a host and it imitates them. It essentially becomes them.
Turns into human if it finds a human.
Yeah.
Turns into other stuff if it finds
Yeah,
other things.
and it's funny because that's a common trope in like classic sci-fi, like Invasion of the Body Snatchers was a movie that I think pioneered that idea really of like aliens that basically become us, or they take over our bodies, or basically we're replaced with alien doubles, copies. Yeah, the Twilight Zone I think did that too. I think back in the days. And I mean, that I think a lot of that stems from like the older kind of Cold War ideas of like communism. Obviously, it's a very obvious parallel to Cold War era like U.S. and like the Red Scare and communism and stuff, and
having spies everywhere within, but people who aren't among us or aren't supposed to be among us, they're all of a sudden trying to be our friends and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, your neighbors might actually be communists, so you better keep an eye on them.
Oh no.
Oh God!
Don't share your milk with them.
Yeah, but so it's just all those things combined. It's like you have that mentality too, that like you have this creature that like can take the form of anybody, including your closest friends, or your like people you thought you knew and everything. And no, it's the alien, and it's trying to assimilate you too, and trying to like take over your body and everything. And it's
That's
just
gross.
yeah, it's really scary too. And there are other things that really make it scary for me. In fact, one of the things that I feel like the film did really well is it kind of taps into this H.P. Lovecraft idea that that aliens have been around far longer than humans have, and that they visited us before, and that they've been here before us. Like,
Ooh.
I think part of what they were explaining in the movie is that the ship was actually they calculated that it was like it had been buried in the ice in Antarctica for like 100,000 years or something, so a long time before we were like around. And yeah, it's just that, and H.P. Lovecraft does that a lot in his horror stories. It's like he reveals that, yeah, aliens and elder gods and all these creatures have been around before us, and they possibly are here already among us, living among us, unknown to us. And it just is that idea that humans are so tiny and unaware of everything else that's going on in this big, vast universe. It makes you feel so small and isolated. And that's scary, especially as a kid, thinking,
You have no idea how. Like,
yeah,
I feel funny.
yeah.
Why do I feel
Exactly.
this way?
You don't feel, can't process that overwhelming feeling of like
Loneliness
and being so small, and that doesn't even have anything to do with the actual like monster itself. I mean, that monster was also just like pretty hardcore grotesque,
Yeah.
and I think that film got criticized a lot too for being overly grotesque looking, which was, that's John Carpenter, so that's his thing, yeah, and that was one of those movies, like much like how you were talking about when you were watching Alien, and you just kind of were thinking that like, man, it's like it's hard, I never knew that there was movies like that looked this good that were that old. I mean, for me, I think that when I saw The Thing, even as a kid, I was able to appreciate it. It was a really great mix of like science fiction and horror at the same time.
Yeah.
But it also added kind of like this really neat element of mystery, because you're trying to figure out
like who's the
alien, who's the thing, and then when did they get turned, and how the hell are the survivors going to get out of this situation, because it just feels so hopeless and bleak. And I'm pretty sure at the end, yeah, it's like, even though they wind up killing the creature, they just like, they realize, like, I think the two survivors that are left, they were like, yeah, we're fucked, man. We're gonna die here in this like research station. Just like the team in the beginning of the movie that they find, then there was like another research team, and all you see is the aftermath of that. And I think there was a remake of The Thing that was just from a few years ago, actually. Just a couple of years ago, and I think that was actually a prequel to the 1982 version.
Yeah.
So it basically shows you what happens to that group as well. But
The Thing, man.
Yeah, The Thing, man.
Okay, speaking of the ending, do you know about the like the theories that people have?
What are the theories?
That The Thing is still alive, and it's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, spoiler alert. Okay, and spoiler alert. But with what's his face? Keith David?
Keith David?
The actor? Are we looking at... Okay, well, Kurt Russell is one of the survivors.
Yep.
And he's sitting at the campfire with one of the other survivors, or the only other survivor is the black guy, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's Keith David.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and then I guess they're kind of looking at each other and being like, okay, we just went through this and whatever. And one of the theories is that, I think it was Kurt Russell's character, does he give Keith David like a drink or something?
Yeah, it's like a bottle of scotch they're sharing.
Yeah, I think I forget if it was that particular theory, but the theory is that he doesn't, the bottle is not scotch. It's like some other like something that you can't consume, maybe like gasoline or something like that. And he gives it to him and he drinks it anyway.
Right.
And that's how he kind of knows that he's still the Thing.
Yeah.
And then there's like a bunch of other theories, like kind of analyzing that scene in particular.
Oh, okay.
And I think the movie is so good. The fact that it even gives us that, like that amount of mystery still after it ends, like we still don't quite know.
Yeah.
Like that ambiguity is always pretty nice, I think.
Definitely. And it adds to that idea too, that it's like they already realize their situation is like dire. And it's still going on though, you know, even though you think that the monster's dead and everything's all hunky dory, it's like there's still that question of, is it really? Is this really over? Oh, that's such
Is
a
it
great
over?
movie. I need to get that on DVD actually. I'm surprised I don't have it already.
They don't have a Criterion version of it.
No, of course not. No.
What? I feel like they would. It's a pretty like iconic movie, right?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing though.
You should write in for it.
Yeah, they don't really listen to me. Obviously, they don't have that many Chinese movies already, so why would they possibly have, you know, the thing? Maybe it's available on Criterion Laserdisc, like all the Star Wars movies.
Sounds awful. Okay, moving on. The Thing.
What else do we got, Joey? What other movie monsters do we have to talk about here?
Okay. So for my next one, this one is actually like a personal favorite, just movie of mine.
Oh,
like
yeah?
a horror movie. Before I go into it, I kind of want to talk about the evolution of horror movies
Okay.
and kind of how, like, in the past, a lot of horror movies kind of featured some, like in the ones that we've talked about, like Alien, The Thing, they featured some kind of, you know, real physical monster.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether it's an alien like chasing you around, but it's something that can like physically threaten you and kill you.
Yeah.
Something that's like visceral and a reason. They give you a reason to actually be scared, and they show you the reason, like the monster right here.
Yep.
And I guess in recent years, maybe in the last 10 or 15 or so, a lot of the monsters are now like they're not physical anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's been a huge rise in psychological horror, like everyone knows, and a lot of that is now, a lot of the horror in those movies is now things that you can't actually see, or they're not tangible anymore. They're like in your head, and like the villain is yourself or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, movies that portray it really well, something like The Sixth Sense.
Oh, yeah.
Or like even The Shining, even though like Jack Torrance ends up turning into Jack Nicholson at the end of the movie. And technically that's a monster, but you know, it's a slow process and you never see it come to fruition until almost the end.
Yeah.
And you know, they are different from actual horror movies where the threat is presented to you and the characters are just as scared as the audience and they're trying to run away from them throughout the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the movies that's kind of started, that kind of bridged the gap between those two, is The Ring.
Oh, okay.
And, you know, like I said, that is probably one of my favorite horror movies of all time.
Yeah, I seem to recall you being really into that movie, like, way back in the days,
It
too.
was, what, 2002?
Yeah, that was when we were in high school
2001?
still.
My God. And
That's a good movie, though.
yeah, it really is. I feel like it's slightly underrated just because people, for one, it's a remake.
Right. Yeah,
And-
the Japanese version, which is called Ringu.
Yes. But it's an interesting movie because throughout the entire film, a lot of the horror that you see, a lot of the scary stuff that you see is psychological.
Yeah.
There is no monster like physically present until the very end.
Right.
And throughout the entire movie, like Samara, the antagonist, I guess, you never see her as a real threat until she comes, spoiler alert again, comes freaking crawling out of the TV.
Yeah.
And then you know that she's the one that kills people.
Yeah, that she is a tangible, like, monster, or, like, at least, like, she does exist. But yeah, you're right. A lot of it's just actually the build up to that point. In fact, yeah.
I think that's why the movie is as good as it is, because
Right.
a lot of the scares aren't really overdone.
Yeah.
It might have like one or two jump scares, but it doesn't rely on it. It uses the imagery and just the whole history of the story itself to it presents it to you and uses that to scare you. You think about that the entire time.
Yeah. I think that's the best part of it, because it's like what you mainly see, at least like especially in the beginning, to set it up, you see the results of what happens after you watch the tape and after the 7 days has gone in. You see like what happens to the people that die, like how they look. And then of course, like the protagonist, she gets a hold of the tape she watches, you get to see like, okay, this is the beginning
Yeah,
of that process.
you the audience get to see the entire
Yeah.
tape. It's basically just shown to you like
Yeah.
by itself.
And that's the thing is it's like, all right, you're given those two pieces of information. You're given, what like what the conclusion is to that, what'll happen at the end of that. And then you see that process started.
Yeah, there's a lot of showing as opposed to telling
Right.
in this movie. And it's I don't know, it's really smart the way it goes about that.
Yeah. And it's got such a great atmosphere, much like a lot of the, like the older movies that we talked about back in the days, like Alien and The Thing, and even the movies like Jaws and the original Halloween and Friday the 13th. They had great atmosphere. They really built a great atmosphere around that setup because
you understand like what happens after 7 days, and you don't know what happens between like within that week, and you're experiencing it like in real time, like firsthand, as along with Naomi Watts' character.
Watts, because that's the thing is like it's like she's on like a clock, she's on the clock. She's got this much time to figure out how to stop it, which by itself is scary. It's like knowing that you're gonna die in a week.
Yeah, if it was someone else that she was trying to figure this out for, that would be one thing. But she watched it and she knows that she will die like within this amount of time.
Well, she also does have to do it for somebody because remember her son watches it.
Yes.
Yeah, at one point in the movie, and then it's just like, all right, the stakes are even higher.
Yeah, but it's different from it being just like she's just some random detective who needs to figure this story out.
Yeah.
But she is the one who she has to figure it out for.
Yeah. And that just already creates that sense of like, all right, that creates that sense of dread. And then it also creates that, sensation that like, well, you've got that you're on the clock. You've got to hurry. You have a limited amount of time. And that's not even getting to like the monster, the quote unquote monster itself, which is at the very end.
Yeah. I mean, the way that I see horror and the way that horror gets to me, it really has to be scary in an underlying level. Like it can't just be skin deep where it's just jump scares everywhere, something popped in the frame. Like that's not being scared, that's just being surprised.
Exactly.
And like a good horror movie needs a backstory that is, one, believable, and two, should leave you feeling like it should leave you with this sinking feeling after watching it.
Yeah, exactly. It's the kind of movie that stays with you after you leave the theater. It's not one of those movies where it's like as soon as you get out in the sunlight, you're just like, that was exhilarating, fun experience.
Yeah, that's why people when you go to a theater, right, and you see a scary movie and a jump scare happens and people jump, and then right afterwards they're like, that was stupid.
It's like riding a roller coaster. It's like you're not really scared for your life. You're just kind of like it's an exhilarating thrill, feeling like the changes, like as the roller coaster goes up and down and loop the loops and all that stuff. You're not really scared for your life.
Yeah, it doesn't. A roller coaster does not fill you with dread and despair. I hope
dread and despair, just like our nostalgia does. No, it doesn't. But
yeah, since we are talking about monsters, let's talk about Samara for a second.
Yeah,
and I guess she does technically qualify as being the villain of this movie. Like, I don't think she is particularly the scariest part. I think just kind of everything leading up to her coming out of the TV.
Yeah.
That's what's the scary. Like, the threat of something eventually happening because of her.
Yeah. Exactly. And then the funny thing is, it's like what's almost scarier is her backstory. Like when you find out her history.
It's just like depressing.
Yeah,
and,
it's
sad.
like that's horrible.
I mean, yeah, it is terrible, but at the same time, as with her story being like this really sad, depressing thing, it's also really smart storytelling because just as much as the main character does, and while she's kind of investigating all of this.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot of what bad horror movies lack, in that they try to have so much exposition because they want people to really, they just want them to understand, like, this is how this got like messed up and this is how this happened, and they kind of spew it all like in one section of the movie.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to understand that and apply that to the rest of it and then have it be scary, and it's not. It's so much scarier when you kind of you figure this out kind of on your own or just
Exactly.
naturally.
It's like when you give so much exposition and then you apply it to like what's going on, it actually I think takes away a lot of the scariness of it.
Yeah.
Because then you're just like, oh, that's why
Yeah, there's
things are the
still
way they
like
are.
things are
Yeah.
all just explained for you, whereas in here things they aren't. They're shown to you, but
Yeah.
you don't really understand it until later.
Yeah, once you finally like piece it together, like because you're piecing all of these things together as she's figuring it out too, and it's like that's almost scarier when you come to that realization of like, oh, damn,
Damn.
damn,
Okay, but as a monster, since we are talking about monsters here,
yeah,
Samara is kind of low on my list of like just scary monsters, even though she looks pretty
Yeah.
terrifying. But like aside from staring you to death, she doesn't really offer any physical threat, at least until
Right.
the end. Like it all comes from that videotape.
yeah,
And so like what I like to say like she's doing is like she's doing some kind of remote haunting pretty much.
yeah. I
Like,
mean,
like she called into the monster movie headquarters and asked if she could work from home today.
she even has like that kind of like grainy TV like fuzz going on too when
Yeah.
she comes out of the TV, which I always thought was a nice touch,
Yeah, like laid over her.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's pretty good.
I thought that was actually really great. But yeah, oh man, I remember when I first saw that movie like in high school too. I went out. That was one of the first earliest DVDs I bought too, actually, because I liked that movie a lot. And that was funny because that spawned a whole lot of those kind of like Japanese horror movies that were brought over as American
Yeah,
versions of
like
them
The
too.
Grudge.
The Grudge, which was also fairly, I thought was pretty good too. I mean,
It
not
was
quite
okay.
as wasn't quite as like good as The Ring, but it it was pretty creepy in that same sense.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but was Naomi Watts also in The Grudge?
I think she was.
Or was it some other? Oh man, I remember it was like some blonde lady. Maybe she was also
Yeah.
Australian.
God,
I'm not-
who-
was it her?
Who was Sarah Michelle Gellar?
Okay,
That's who it was.
Forget it then.
Yeah, Bill Pullman was in that too. But the funny thing was that both The Grudge, like the original Japanese version, and I think the American one, they were directed by the same guy, Takashi
sure?
Shimizu.
Oh, you mean
Yeah.
the Japanese versions?
Yeah. Well, he also directed the American Grudge too.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
okay, well then.
he directed like the American remake of his own movie.
I
His
guess
own
I guess
Japanese
that's
movie.
kind of smart.
Yeah.
Letting you make sure no one messes it up. But I mean, come on, props to Gore Verbinski for making The Ring
Oh yes.
and just making something like good out of source material.
Oh yeah, definitely. Very scary. Very high up on that scariness meter.
All right. So I hear Will has a surprise for me.
Well, it's not so much a surprise for you, but I just didn't want to reveal like what my final little movie monster was,
Okay.
And for me, this is the scariest movie monster of them all. Maybe even scarier than the Xenomorph that we talked about,
Mm-hmm.
And because this movie monster is like capable of some really horrible shit, So this movie monster, get ready for it.
All right.
It's us. Not you and me, I mean, but like humans. Humans in general. So
Okay.
I know that's gonna sound really cheesy after all that slight build up there, but I mean the funny thing is when I was sitting down to think about like this topic about movie monsters and what's like which ones scared me the most, especially growing up as a kid. Most of the ones that really scared me were fucking humans. We're just straight up people, And that's the thing is like humans are scary because like we're the only animal on earth that like kills each other, that we kill each other out of like, for stupid reasons, not just for like,
food
food or anything like that.
or like-
I mean, we can. There's movies certainly about that, yeah. But I mean, we kill each other out of like, revenge or something, like in Scream or Friday the 13th or the Halloween movies. We kill each other for, reasons of insanity, like in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or even just to prove like some weird like life lesson to other people with like the Saw movies or Hostel, It's just, and let's not forget war, because, war never changes, man. You can get it, and of course you can get in that whole realm of like monsters created like from the effects of war, like from nuclear testing, like Godzilla and the giant ants from them, and all those other like movie monsters from like the 50s and the 60s and stuff. But that's the thing, we created those monsters. We were the ones that created them from like, our testing of like nuclear bombs and weapons that were meant to kill other humans, So if anything, that makes us the king of the monsters in that respect.
Good Lord.
And you think about also what was something that we said about the Xenomorph and about like other aliens that you would see in like sci-fi movies that would make them scary is that they have a human-like form. They're humanoid, like the Xenomorph and even Predator, like Predator.
Even the Thing.
Even the Thing,
Because it takes human forms. Oh my God, Will.
See? I told you, man. I told you. Humans are by far the scariest movie monsters that you can have.
You're blowing my mind.
And if you think about too, a lot of like other like traditional like movie monsters. What comes to mind when you think of like monsters? Zombies,
Frankenstein,
mummies, vampires. It's like they're all technically their own category of like monsters, but they all have something in common. They're humans, or they used to be humans. Like zombies are really just decayed corpses, Vampires are just, dead humans who need to feed on the blood of living humans, And that's the funny thing about it, is because all of them, the scary thing about them, a lot of these creatures, is that they're people who are just supposedly doing abnormal things that people don't normally do. Like eating other people, or drinking other people's blood, or walking around when they're supposed to be dead. And for some reason, that scares the shit out of us. That scares the shit out of people.
Yeah.
And that's not even to mention ghosts. Why are ghosts scary? They used to be humans. They used to be alive like you and me. But
now they're not.
Now they're not, and they're scary for it.
Dude, they can go through walls.
They're ethereal. They exist on a plane that we as living, breathing humans cannot exist on. So I present to you the ultimate case for human beings being cinema's greatest movie monster. And
cut.
Wow.
Okay. So does that mean like all of our list is invalid now?
No, not necessarily. I just thought that was a great. I just thought it was a great pitch. When I was sitting down to think about this, it's like that's all I could think about were like some of the scariest movies to me as a kid. I'll name you one that really scared me as a kid, that kept me awake at night. It was Candyman.
Oh yeah, I was gonna mention that.
Yeah,
because that's one of Chia's favorite movies, like, or scary movies. And
yeah,
I never watched it before, but I watched it recently, and yeah, that guy's pretty scary. He's big and black, and he has a hook for a hand.
Got a hook
He's
for
got
a hand.
bees coming out of his mouth.
Yeah, see, that's also what scared me, because I hate bees. I am super scared of bees. And
is it because of humans? The beekeepers, they're just regular humans, but they got bees with them.
They've got bees, man. Oh, yeah, but that was one of the scariest movies to me. That was one of the few movies where when I saw that as a kid, I was literally up all night because I was super scared. Like that.
You didn't want to come out from behind the mirror or whatever.
I did not even want to go into the bathroom and look in the mirror, because I was like, oh my God, like he's going to come through the mirror and he's going to kill me.
God.
That was super scary. So, and I actually was scared of a lot of those kind of like slasher kind of flicks, but I loved them. I really loved them as a kid. Like even in middle school and high school, like I loved movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I know there are a lot of people out there that really do like those kind of movies, like the gore and everything.
But a lot of them, I'm sure they like it because of kind of like the campiness for one.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
two, I guess also the gore.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure how many people actually like them because they are terrified of them.
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard to say.
It is. Like for me, when looking at Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you could look at, the campiness and the gore and everything. But for me, just the idea that this is based on a true story, it's based on something that actually happened. And it's something that like, that scares the heck out of me. Like I would never want to drive through middle America, just because like, that kind of stuff could happen, It's like there could be some maniac out there with a chainsaw that cuts people up and like wears their faces like a mask, That
Ugh.
is really creepy, you know.
Well, I don't know if Candyman is based off of a true story. Is
Somehow
it?
I doubt it, you know.
But I mean, wasn't I don't quite remember the ending of the movie, but didn't they reveal like his backstory and like where he came from?
yeah, well, it's because they kind of the main character she learns that I think while you know while she's because she's investigating
Yeah.
the whole thing, you know, so she learns the backstory like what happens to him, like he's kind of like I think they chop off his hand and give him a hook and like they burn him alive or something at the end, and I think I remember she like sacrifices herself to like
Yeah, to the
save like some
bees.
yeah or like there's like a fire or something and there's like a kid trapped in a fire,
Yeah.
so she sacrifices herself to save the kid, but then she becomes like the new Candyman. Like I remember like her boyfriend or her husband or whatever, he's like in the bathroom and he says her name like 3 times in the mirror and then she appears to kill him. It's really weird, you know. I haven't seen it in a long
The
time.
new Candyman.
Yeah,
Do you think they'll ever remake that?
I hope not.
I mean, I out of all the horror remakes, I'm most interested in that. I think.
Yeah. What about The Dentist?
The
I'd like to
Dentist?
see a remake of The Dentist. Have you ever seen that?
I remember the poster and everything.
That was another movie.
Dude,
that,
you and your human horror movies. God.
The Dentist, man. That's you think about how scared you are of the dentist's office already. Now, just imagine if your dentist was like a maniacal like serial killer who basically like, you know, first of all, he's gonna make your mouth hurt real bad, and then he's gonna make the rest of you hurt real bad.
Ooh. What about that movie Stepdad? Oh man.
Oh no,
Dude, that's like one of my favorite posters of all time.
Yeah?
Because it's just a shot of it. It's like completely dark, and it's a shot of his hands, and he's like gripping a tie.
Yeah.
Like he's gonna strangle
he's gonna
someone with it.
strangle with
It's
it.
like one of my favorite ones ever.
Or like other scary movies revolving around like Santa Claus. You know, all the Christmas themed horror.
Okay, what's
movies.
with that? Like Krampus?
Well, I think that's based on a real like
It's
or
an urban
an urban legend or like a folklore or something like that.
Yeah.
There actually is a monster or something called
It's
Krampus.
I think it's in what, like Ukraine or something?
yeah, some
Or
like European folk legend or something like that. But I think that's what is it like he steals kids or something and he replaces them with like goblins or whatever or something like that. But
Oh, who would be able to tell the difference?
yeah, what about Leprechaun, man? Leprechaun is scary as hell.
He's just tiny human.
Yeah, well, he's big as hell in those movies.
Oh, really?
Like he's actually pretty tall, pretty
I
big.
thought he was a leprechaun.
He's like short and squat, but he's like still like 4 feet tall. Man, young Jennifer Aniston in that first movie.
Yeah. All right. Well, if I think we've gone through all of them, and so we've decided that the number one scariest horror movie monster of all time is human.
Yeah, humans. 1 for humans, 0 for other movie monsters.
Followed closely by the Xenomorph.
Yeah, definitely. Xenomorph would take number 2, you know?
All right then. Yay for humans.
Humanity. Scariest thing on earth.
All right, let's move on to our final round.
Final round.
I'm just gonna lay over like a sound clip
Oh,
over
actually-
you.
That would actually be really good. I think that would make it sound more professional.
Let's try that again then. Final round. Oh wait. I'll do it next time.
Not
Okay.
so professional.
Go ahead, Will.
Oh,
Lay it on me.
lay it on you. So what have I been doing this lately, and what am I gonna be doing? Well, first of all, because it is now the springtime, hockey playoffs are in full swing. We're now in round 2 of the NHL playoffs. So I've been following the San Jose Sharks. They are now in round 2 in their playoff series against the Nashville Predators. So game 2 is tonight, Sunday night. So hopefully by the time that you find folks who listen to this, the Sharks will be up 2-0 on Nashville.
Let's hope.
Yeah. Also been playing a lot of Fallout 4 again. Like I picked it up after, kind of not playing it for a good 3 or 4 weeks, because the DLCs come out. So there's like already the first 2 DLC packs have come out. There's this one called Automatron, which is cool because you could build new robots and there's a lot of like new quests and everything that you could do. So
Yeah.
it also helps me not have to decide on a faction before finishing the game, which is nice and fun. And the Wasteland Workshop DLC, which has been really fun because it just adds like
You can like build anything pretty much.
yeah, it adds so much to that. So I'm spending way too much time building my settlements again, which is fun.
Nice.
And so lastly, there's a couple birthdays last week and this week. So our friend Mari just turned 30. She joined the club, the 30s club, this past week. So happy belated birthday, Mari. And Joss, my girlfriend, her birthday is next week. So by the time our next episode comes out, she'll also have celebrated her birthday. So that's what's on my list of
Getting old.
things. Getting old. So scary. What about you, Joey?
Okay, so I think I mentioned this a couple weeks ago or maybe last week. I don't quite remember, but I've been playing Stardew Valley.
Yes.
More and more. I think I'm like almost 30 hours into that game.
Wow.
So yeah, I mentioned before, I'm not sure if it deviates much from Harvest Moon, and I will say that it does not.
It does not.
It is okay. I've played it, and yeah, it's really good. It's really fun, but it is Harvest Moon. There is almost nothing different between this game and like a good Harvest Moon game. Like everything in this, I'm waiting for it to kind of change and do something. I'm like, nope, I'm just playing Harvest Moon, and I'm not complaining either. I was
wondering.
I'm happily playing it as if it were Harvest Moon, but I mean, I guess it's for a generation that wasn't able to experience those like nice, like as Super Nintendo N64 style of Harvest Moon.
Unless they want to go out and spend like $80 or more.
You can buy my copy, $150.
You heard it here, folks. $150. You get that copy of Harvest Moon.
It has a sticker on the back. There's no box. It has some Sharpie.
Terrible.
Yeah, if you want to buy it though. Oh, what else? Also playing Lost Street Fighter 5 still.
Yeah, been thinking about picking that up too.
You should just do it. We got a nice room going.
Yeah. We can start lobbies and play with our listeners, all like 5 of them.
Basically us. I would like that.
Me too.
If anyone's listening has Street Fighter 5, half of the co-hosts here don't even have the game. So.
Yep. Only half of us right in this room have the Fallout. Well, have Fallout and also have Street Fighter. So
whatever. Can't play Fallout with our listeners. All right, guys. So we're out of time here, but we will catch you all next week.
That we will.
Once again, my name is Joey.
I'm Will.
And this has been RetroActive. Psst, hey, you. You like what you heard? You should subscribe to us on iTunes and YouTube. Maybe even leave a comment somewhere, like right on your bathroom walls if you need to. You can also find us on Facebook at RetroActive Podcast, and on Instagram at retro.active, and then also on Twitter at _retroactive. Go on and do that. I'll be right here. I'll just wait.